Arab millionaire paid for the woman's shopping. Then he saw her at his wife's grave who died 21 years ago. When he asked what she was doing there, he broke down in tears with what she had just answered. The morning sun cast long shadows through the towering windows of the Richardson estate, illuminating a world of luxury that felt hollow to its sole inhabitant. Ahmad Richardson, the 51-year-old business magnate, stood before the grand mirror in his marble-floored foyer, adjusting his silk tie with practiced precision. His reflection showed a distinguished man with salt and pepper hair, sharp features softened by time, and eyes that carried a weight few could understand. 21 years had passed since Sarah's departure, yet her absence still echoed through every corridor of the sprawling mansion. The house staff moved silently around him, their footsteps muffled by plush Persian carpets, as if afraid to disturb the perpetual quiet that had settled over the estate since that fateful day. Ahmad's success story was well known in Boston's elite circles. The son of a wealthy Middle Eastern sheikh who had transformed his inheritance into a global empire through strategic investments and innovative technology ventures. But few knew the personal cost of his dedication to work, how it had become both his shelter and his prison in the years following Sarah's passing. As he descended the grand staircase, Maria, his longtime housekeeper, appeared with his morning coffee. "Your schedule for today, Mr. Richardson," she said, holding out a tablet. "The board meeting is at 10, followed by lunch with the investors from Dubai. Then you have..." "Cancel everything," Ahmad interrupted, surprising both Maria and himself. The words had escaped before he'd even formed the thought completely. Maria blinked, her tablet hovering mid-air. "Sir, I said cancel everything." He took a sip of the coffee, savoring its rich aroma. I need a different kind of day today." The look of concern on Maria's face was familiar. It was the same one she'd worn countless times over the past 2 decades when he'd shown any deviation from his carefully structured routine. "Of course, sir. Shall I have James bring the car around?" Ahmad shook his head. "No, I'll drive myself today." He walked to the kitchen where the staff was preparing a breakfast he knew he wouldn't eat. The wall calendar caught his eye. It was Tuesday, traditionally his busiest day of the week, but something inside him had shifted, a quiet rebellion against the clockwork precision of his life. He grabbed his keys from the silver bowl by the door, ignoring the questioning looks from his staff. The garage door opened silently, revealing his collection of luxury vehicles. He bypassed the usual Bentley, opting instead for a more modest Mercedes sedan, the one Sarah had always preferred for their quiet drives along the coast. The streets of Boston were already alive with morning traffic as Ahmad merged into the flow of vehicles. He had no destination in mind, allowing himself to drift through the city he'd called home for 3 decades. The freedom of spontaneity felt foreign, almost dangerous after years of meticulously planned days. His wandering brought him to the South End, where old brownstones stood shoulder to shoulder like ancient guardians of the city's history. He pulled into a parking spot outside a small cafe he'd never noticed before, the Morning Light Bistro. Through the window he could see it was modestly furnished but warm and inviting, worlds away from the exclusive restaurants he usually frequented. Inside, the aroma of fresh-baked bread and coffee enveloped him. The cafe was busy with the morning rush, filled with the gentle buzz of conversation and the clink of cups against saucers. Ahmad chose a quiet corner table, accepting a menu from a young waitress who showed no sign of recognizing him, a refreshing change from his usual experiences. As he studied the simple menu, the door chimed, and a young woman entered, struggling with a baby carrier in one arm and a diaper bag in the other. She looked exhausted but determined, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing clothes that had seen better days. The baby, peaceful in sleep, couldn't have been more than a few months old. Ahmad watched as she approached the counter, bouncing the carrier gently when the baby stirred. She ordered with a quiet dignity, but when it came time to pay, her face flushed as she dug through her bag, counting out coins and small bills. "I'm sorry," she apologized to the cashier, her voice trembling slightly. "I thought I had enough. Could you maybe remove the sandwich?" Something stirred in Ahmad's chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. Before he could think twice, he was on his feet, moving toward the counter. "Please," he said, reaching for his wallet, "allow me to take care of this." The young woman turned, startled by his presence. For a moment their eyes met, and Ahmad felt the world shift beneath his feet. There was something hauntingly familiar about her face, something that made his heart skip a beat. Her eyes, they were exactly like Sarah's. "Oh no, I couldn't possibly," she began, but Ahmad had already handed his credit card to the cashier. "I insist," he said softly. "Please, take a seat. Join me for breakfast if you'd like." The young woman hesitated, looking from Ahmad to her sleeping baby and back again. In her eyes, he could see a calculation taking place, weighing pride against practicality, stranger danger against genuine kindness. Finally, she nodded. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Emma Foster. And this is Lily." As Ahmad helped her settle the baby carrier at his corner table, he couldn't shake the feeling that this chance encounter was somehow significant. It was as if the carefully constructed walls of his solitary existence were beginning to crack, letting in the first rays of a new dawn. "Ahmad Richardson," he introduced himself, pulling out a chair for her. "Please tell me what brings you to Boston." Little did he know this simple act of kindness would unlock a door to a past he thought he buried, and a future he never dared to imagine. Emma Foster sat across from Ahmad, her hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee, as if drawing strength from its warmth. The morning light streaming through the cafe windows caught the gold flecks in her brown eyes, those eyes that stirred something deep in Ahmad's memory. "I've been in Boston for about 3 months now," she explained, gently rocking the baby carrier with her foot when Lily stirred. "I came here searching for answers, I suppose. But the city hasn't been as welcoming as I'd hoped." Ahmad listened intently, noting the careful way she chose her words, as if holding back parts of her story. "Answers can be difficult to find in a city this size," he offered, "especially when you're doing it alone." Emma's smile was tinged with sadness. "Lily's father isn't in the picture, if that's what you're wondering. He left when I told him I was pregnant, but it's okay, we're managing. Or at least we were until last week when I lost my waitressing job." She paused, embarrassment covering her cheeks. "I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm telling you all this. Sometimes it's easier to talk to strangers," Ahmad said softly, remembering countless nights when he'd found himself confiding in taxi drivers and hotel bartenders in the years after Sarah's passing. "And sometimes those strangers are placed in our path for a reason." The baby chose that moment to wake, her tiny face scrunching up in preparation for a cry. Emma reached for her with practiced efficiency, but Ahmad noticed the tremor in her hands, the dark circles under her eyes that spoke of endless sleepless nights. "Let me help," he offered, surprising himself. "I may be out of practice, but I remember the basics." When Emma hesitated, he added, "I had a wife once. We always dreamed of having children." Something flickered across Emma's face at his words. Recognition, fear, but it was gone before he could be sure. She carefully handed Lily to him, and the baby settled surprisingly quickly in his arms, her tiny fingers wrapping around his thumb with surprising strength. "You're a natural," Emma observed, watching them with an unreadable expression. "Your wife. You said you had a wife." Ahmad nodded, his throat tightening as it always did when he spoke of Sarah. "Yes, Sarah. We were married for 5 wonderful years before she left us. 21 years ago now, though sometimes it feels like yesterday." Emma's hand flew to her throat, her face paling slightly. 21 years, she repeated, her voice barely audible over the cafe's morning bustle. "Yes, she became ill very suddenly. The doctors couldn't..." Ahmad trailed off, noticing Emma's increasing distress. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," she said quickly, too quickly. It's been a long morning. And you've been so kind, Mr. Richardson. Too kind, really." Ahmad looked down at Lily, who had drifted back to sleep in his arms. "Please call me Ahmad. And kindness is something I've had too little of in my life lately. Perhaps it's time to change that." He made a decision then, one that would alter the course of both their lives. "Emma, let me help you. Not just with breakfast, but with finding a new job, a proper place to stay." "No," Emma cut him off, standing abruptly. "No, I couldn't. You don't understand. I should go." She reached for Lily, her hands shaking as she secured the baby back in her carrier. "Emma, please." Ahmad stood as well, recognizing the fear of accepting help that he'd seen in so many proud people over the years. "At least let me give you my card. If you need anything at all." She paused in her hurried gathering of her things, something warring behind her eyes. Finally, she took the business card he held out. slipping it into her pocket without looking at it. "Thank you for breakfast," she said formally, all the warmth of their earlier conversation gone. "And for your kindness. But please, don't look for us." Before Ahmad could respond, she was gone, the cafe door chiming in her wake. He stood there, watching through the window as she hurried down the street, the baby carrier bouncing gently with each step. Something about her reaction to Sarah's story, the way she'd paled at the mention of 21 years. He shook his head, trying to clear it of impossible thoughts. Instead of returning to his office as planned, he found himself driving toward Mount Auburn Cemetery, where Sarah rested beneath a marble angel. He hadn't planned to visit today. He usually saved his visits for Sundays. But something about his encounter with Emma had stirred up the past like autumn leaves in a whirlwind. As he parked his car along the cemetery's winding road, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change dramatically. He just couldn't have imagined how right he was, or that the answers to questions he hadn't even thought to ask were waiting for him just around the corner. Ahmad walked the familiar path through Mount Auburn Cemetery, autumn leaves crunching beneath his Italian leather shoes. The morning's strange encounter with Emma and baby Lily had left him unsettled, stirring memories he'd carefully packed away over the years. Sarah's grave lay ahead, marked by the marble angel whose wings seemed to catch the morning light, creating an ethereal glow. But today, something was different. Someone was already there. His heart nearly stopped when he recognized the figure standing before Sarah's grave, Emma, her back turned to him, one hand resting on the marble base, while the other held Lily close to her chest. She was speaking softly, her words carried away by the autumn breeze before they could reach his ears. Ahmad stopped, frozen in place. The scene before him felt surreal, like a dream where past and present collided in impossible ways. Emma shouldn't be here, couldn't be here. How had she found Sarah's grave? Why was she speaking to it as if, "I knew you'd come"? Emma's voice startled him from his thoughts. She had turned to face him, tears streaming down her face, but her expression was oddly serene. Lily slept peacefully against her chest, wrapped in a pale pink blanket. "How?" Ahmad began, but the words caught in his throat. "I've been coming here every Tuesday for the past 3 months, Emma explained, her voice trembling, but determined. "Ever since I found out the truth. I didn't expect to meet you at the cafe today. I was actually on my way here when Lily got hungry. I thought I had more time to figure out how to tell you." Ahmad took a step forward, his legs feeling unsteady. "Tell me what, Emma?" She took a deep breath, looking up at the marble angel as if seeking strength. 21 years ago, a young woman gave birth to a baby girl at Boston Medical Center. She was unmarried at the time, scared and believed she couldn't provide the life her child deserved. So she made the hardest decision of her life. She gave that baby up for adoption. Ahmad's world tilted on its axis as understanding began to dawn. He whispered. "Sarah would have told me. 3 months later, she met you," Emma continued, her voice growing stronger. "She fell in love, got married, and built a beautiful life. But she never told you about the baby she had given up, the secret she carried in her heart until the day she..." Emma's voice caught. "Until the day she left this world." Ahmad sank onto a nearby bench, his legs no longer able to support him. "How can you be sure?" Emma reached into her bag with trembling fingers and pulled out a worn envelope. "I grew up in the foster system. When I turned 18, I started searching for my birth mother. It took years, but I finally found these." She handed him the envelope. "Original adoption papers, birth records, and this." From the envelope, she withdrew a faded photograph. Ahmad's hands shook as he took it. The image showed a much younger Sarah, her face tired but radiant as she held a newborn baby, tear tracks visible on her cheeks. The date stamp in the corner matched exactly, 21 years ago. "I found all this 3 months ago," Emma explained, sitting beside him on the bench. "I was so excited to finally meet her, to tell her that I understood why she did what she did, that I had a daughter of my own now. But when I came to Boston," she swallowed hard. "I was too late." Ahmad stared at the photograph, his thumb tracing Sarah's young face. How many times had he thought he knew everything about his wife? How many times had he seen a shadow cross her face when they talked about having children of their own, never understanding the true depth of her pain? "The timing of your illness during my pregnancy your decision to pay for my breakfast, the way you held Lily. It all felt like more than coincidence, Emma said softly. I believe Sarah led us to each other. Ahmad looked up from the photograph to study Emma's face, really study it. How had he not seen it before? She had Sarah's eyes, her gentle smile, even the way she tilted her head when she spoke. And Lily, sleeping peacefully in her arms, was his wife's granddaughter. Why didn't you tell me at the cafe? He asked, his voice hoarse with emotion. How could I? Thank you for the coffee, by the way. I'm your dead wife's secret daughter. Emma attempted a weak smile. I needed to be sure you were ready to hear it. And I needed to be sure I was ready to say it. A breeze rustled through the cemetery, causing the leaves to dance around them in gentle spirals. The marble angel above seemed to smile down at their small group, as if approving of this long-awaited reunion. What happens now? Ahmad whispered, still trying to process the magnitude of this revelation. Emma looked down at Lily, then back at Ahmad, uncertainty clear in her eyes. That depends on you. I didn't come to Boston expecting anything. I needed to know where I came from, who I came from. And now that I've found you, the unfinished sentence hung in the air between them, filled with both possibility and fear. Ahmad realized that this moment would define the rest of their lives, his chance to honor Sarah's memory in a way he never expected, to fill the emptiness in his life with the family he thought he'd never have. But first, there were 21 years of stories to share, and countless questions that needed answers. The drive back to the Richardson estate was quiet, filled with the weight of unspoken words and overwhelming emotions. Emma sat in the passenger seat of Ahmad's Mercedes, occasionally glancing at the sleeping Lily in the backseat through the rearview mirror. The familiar streets of Boston passed by outside, but everything felt different now, as if the world had shifted on its axis. Your house is beautiful, Emma breathed, as they pulled through the ornate gates of the estate. The mansion stood before them, its granite facade gleaming in the afternoon sun, manicured gardens stretching in every direction. It's too big for one person, Ahmad replied softly, parking in front of the main entrance. Sarah always said so, but I could never bring myself to move after she left. Now, I understand why. Maria was waiting at the door, her eyes widening slightly at the sight of Emma and the baby. In 21 years, Ahmad had never brought visitors home unannounced. Sir? She questioned, her voice careful. Ahmad took a deep breath, looking at Emma for permission. When she nodded, he said, Maria, this is Emma Foster, Sarah's daughter, and this is her baby, Lily. They'll be staying with us for a while. Maria's hand flew to her mouth, tears immediately welling in her eyes. She had been with the family since before Sarah's passing, and Ahmad knew she had loved his wife like a sister. Miss Emma, she whispered, you have your mother's eyes. The simple observation broke something open in Emma, and she stepped forward to accept Maria's embrace, careful not to disturb Lily. Ahmad watched the two women hold each other, seeing 21 years of loss and longing bridge itself in a single moment. Let me show you to your rooms, Maria said when they finally separated, wiping her eyes. The east wing gets beautiful morning light, perfect for the baby. As Maria led them upstairs, Ahmad noticed Emma taking everything in with wide eyes. The crystal chandelier, the family portraits lining the walls, the antique furniture that Sarah had loved so much. He wondered what it must be like for her, walking into this piece of her mother's life that she had never known. This was Sarah's favorite room, Ahmad said as Maria opened the doors to a spacious suite decorated in soft blues and creams. She used to sit in that window seat for hours, reading or just watching the gardens. He paused, emotion threatening to overwhelm him. She would have wanted you to have it. Emma walked to the window seat, running her hand along the cushioned surface. Did she spend a lot of time here? She asked softly. In this room. Ahmad nodded, moving to stand beside her. Especially in the mornings. She said it was where she felt most at peace. He hesitated, then added, there were times when I would find her here, looking out at the gardens with such sadness in her eyes. Now I understand why. Lily chose that moment to wake, her tiny face scrunching up as she began to fuss. Maria immediately stepped forward. Let me help you get settled, Miss Emma. The nursery next door is already furnished. Mrs. Richardson had it prepared years ago, hoping... As Maria's voice trailed off, Ahmad felt a familiar ache in his chest. Sarah had always wanted children, had insisted on keeping the nursery ready just in case. Had she been thinking of Emma when she chose the pale yellow paint, the delicate white furniture? Had she dreamed of someday reuniting with the daughter she had given up? "I'll leave you to get settled," Ahmad said, needing a moment to collect himself. "Maria will help you with anything you need. We can talk more over dinner if you feel up to it." Emma caught his hand before he could leave. "Ahmad, wait." Her voice trembled slightly. "I need you to know something. I didn't come here looking for money or status or anything like that. I just wanted to know her, to understand why she made the choices she did. Finding you being here, it's more than I ever dared to hope for." Ahmad squeezed her hand gently. "Emma, you are Sarah's daughter. That makes you family. Everything I have, this house, my resources, my love, it's yours if you want it. Not because you asked for it, but because Sarah would have wanted you to have it. Because I want you to have it." Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks as she nodded, unable to speak. Ahmad felt his own eyes growing wet as he looked at this young woman who was so much like her mother. Strong yet vulnerable, proud yet humble, carrying the weight of secrets and dreams too heavy for one person to bear alone. As he left the room, Ahmad heard Maria beginning to tell Emma stories about Sarah, little details about her favorite flowers, the way she took her tea, how she would sing while arranging flowers from the garden. He smiled, knowing that through these stories, through these shared memories, Sarah would live on in ways he had never expected. Walking to his study, Ahmad realized that for the first time in 21 years, the house didn't feel empty. The silence that had haunted its halls was being replaced by the soft sounds of life, a baby's coos, women's voices, the rustle of curtains in rooms too long closed off to the world. Sarah had given him one final gift, he realized. Not just a daughter he never knew he had, but a chance to build the family they had always dreamed of having together. Now it was up to him to honor that gift, to bridge the gaps of time and loss with love and understanding. But first, there were arrangements to be made, calls to place and a future to begin planning, not just for himself, but for the unexpected family that had walked into his life on an ordinary Tuesday morning. The following days at the Richardson estate unfolded like pages from a storybook Emma had never dared to imagine. Each morning brought new discoveries about the mother she'd never known, carefully preserved in the fabric of the mansion and the memories of those who had loved her. One particular morning, as autumn sunshine streamed through the windows of Sarah's old sitting room, Emma sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by photo albums Maria had brought down from the attic. Lily played contentedly on a blanket beside her, reaching for the sunbeams dancing across the hardwood floors. "I found these in Mrs. Richardson's personal chest," Maria explained, carefully opening a leather-bound album. She kept them separate from the main family photos. The housekeeper's voice softened. "I think now I understand why." Emma's breath caught as she turned the pages. There, tucked between sheets of protective paper, were photographs she'd never seen before. Sarah in her early 20s, before she met Ahmad. In one, she stood outside a community college, books clutched to her chest, her smile bright, but her eyes holding a shadow of worry. In another, she sat in a small apartment, one hand resting protectively over her stomach. "She was so young," Emma whispered, tracing her mother's face with trembling fingers. "Just like I was when Lily came." "Miss Emma," Maria hesitated, then pulled something from her apron pocket. "There's something else you should see." She handed Emma a small worn journal bound in faded blue leather. "I found this while cleaning out Mrs. Richardson's personal items years ago. I could never bring myself to show it to Mr. Ahmad. It felt too private. But now, Emma accepted the journal with shaking hands. Opening it revealed pages filled with Sarah's elegant handwriting. The first entry was dated 22 years ago. "My dearest baby, I don't know if you'll ever read these words, but I need to write them anyway. Today, I made the hardest decision of my life. They tell me it's the right choice. That at 19, with no job, no support, and no way to provide for you, giving you up is an act of love. But my heart is breaking." Tears blurred Emma's vision as she read on. Page after page documented Sarah's thoughts, her hopes, her dreams for the child she had given up. There were entries about her struggle to build a new life, her meeting with Ahmad, their whirlwind romance and marriage. But through it all ran a thread of quiet grief, of longing for the daughter she had let go. The sound of Ahmad's footsteps in the doorway made her look up. He stood there watching them with an expression of tender concern. In the days since their cemetery meeting, he had shown nothing but acceptance and love, but Emma could see the questions that still lingered in his eyes. "I found something," Emma said softly, holding up the journal. "Sarah, Mom, she wrote about everything. About why she had to give me up, about meeting you." She swallowed hard. "About how much she wanted to tell you the truth." Ahmad crossed the room slowly, settling into an armchair near them. Lily immediately reached for him, and he lifted her into his lap with practiced ease. The baby had taken to him instantly, as if somehow sensing their connection. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the journal. Emma handed it to him, watching as he read, his free hand absently stroking Lily's dark curls. His expression changed as he absorbed Sarah's words, grief, understanding, and love playing across his features. "Listen to this entry," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's dated just after our wedding. Today I became Mrs. Richardson and my heart is full of joy. Ahmad is everything I ever dreamed of. Kind, loving, understanding. But there's a hole in my happiness. A secret I carry like a stone in my chest. Every time he talks about having children, I think of you, my firstborn, out there somewhere. I pray that someday you'll find your way back to us, that Ahmad will understand why I couldn't tell him then, that he'll love you as much as I do." Emma wiped her eyes, looking at Ahmad. "Did you understand, I mean?" Ahmad closed the journal gently, meeting her gaze. "Sarah had her reasons for keeping this secret. I wish she had trusted me enough to share it, but I understand why it was difficult. She was so young when she had you, trying to build a new life. And look at you now." His smile was warm as he bounced Lily on his knee. "You've given me something I never thought I'd have, a family." Maria discreetly wiped her eyes and began gathering the photo albums. "I'll just put these away for now. Lunch will be served in an hour." As the housekeeper left, Emma moved to sit closer to Ahmad, watching as Lily played with his silk tie. "Sometimes I worry," she admitted quietly, "that this is all too much, too fast, that you feel obligated because of Sarah." "Emma," Ahmad interrupted gently, "nothing about this is obligation. When Sarah left us, I thought my chance at having a family was gone. But here you are, her daughter, my daughter in every way that matters, and this little one." He smiled as Lily grabbed his finger. "She's a gift. You both are." A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by Lily's happy babbling. Through the windows they could see the garden where Sarah had spent so many hours, now blazing with autumn colors. Emma felt a deep sense of peace settle over her, a feeling that after years of searching, she had finally found her way home. But there was still so much to learn about Sarah, so many pieces of the past to uncover. And as Emma looked at the journal in Ahmad's hands, she knew they were just beginning to understand the depth of Sarah's love, a love that had stretched across decades, binding them all together in ways they were only now discovering. The transformation of the Richardson estate over the next few weeks was remarkable. Rooms that had been shrouded in silence for 2 decades now echoed with Lily's laughter and the soft murmur of family conversations. The staff moved with renewed purpose, their steps lighter, their smiles genuine as they watched their employer's gradual return to life. Ahmad found himself rising earlier each morning, eager to join Emma and Lily for breakfast in the sunny kitchen nook that Sarah had designed. This particular morning, he arrived to find Emma attempting to feed Lily, while simultaneously trying to read the Boston Globe's business section. "The technology sector looks interesting," she commented, dodging a spoonful of pureed carrots that Lily had decided to redirect. "Especially that new startup everyone's talking about." Ahmad smiled, accepting a coffee cup from Maria. "You've been studying the market reports I gave you. Well, if I'm going to help with the family business someday, I need to understand it," Emma replied, then caught herself. "I mean, if that's something you'd want." "Emma," Ahmad said gently, "everything I have built, it was always meant to be a legacy for my children. I just never thought I'd be blessed enough to have that chance." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I've been thinking, if you're interested, I'd like to set up a trust for both you and Lily, and perhaps you could consider taking some business courses at the university." Emma's eyes widened. "Ahmad, that's too much. You've already given us a home, security. You are my daughter," Ahmad stated firmly, "and Lily is my granddaughter. Providing for your futures isn't charity. It's my privilege and responsibility as a father and grandfather." Before Emma could respond, James, Ahmad's longtime chauffeur, appeared in the doorway. "Sir, the board members have arrived for the meeting." Ahmad noticed Emma's immediate interest. "Would you like to join us?" he offered. "It's just a quarterly review, but it might give you a better understanding of the company." Emma glanced at Lily, but Maria was already moving to take the baby. "Go," the housekeeper insisted. "Miss Lily and I have some serious garden exploration planned, don't we, everyone?" The boardroom fell silent as Ahmad entered with Emma. The members, mostly older men who had worked with him for years, looked curiously at the young woman. Ahmad took his place at the head of the table, gesturing for Emma to sit beside him. "Gentlemen," he began, his voice clear and confident. "Before we start, I'd like to introduce you to my daughter, Emma Foster. She'll be joining us today as an observer, and in the future, I hope she'll take a more active role in our operations." The surprise on their faces quickly gave way to warm welcomes as Emma was introduced around the table. Ahmad watched proudly as she engaged with each member, asking intelligent questions and showing genuine interest in their areas of expertise. As the meeting progressed, Ahmad found his attention divided between the business at hand and the young woman beside him, taking careful notes and following the discussions with keen interest. She reminded him so much of Sarah in these moments. The same quick mind, the same quiet determination to learn and understand. After the meeting, as the board members filed out with noticeably more energy than usual, Emma turned to Ahmad. "Thank you for including me today. I know it must have been unexpected for them." "They're delighted," Ahmad assured her. "This company has been successful, but it's been stagnant in some ways. Your fresh perspective, your energy, it's exactly what we need." Emma was quiet for a moment, playing with her pen. "I found something else in Sarah's journal last night," she said finally. "An entry from right before she left. She wrote about her dreams for me, that I would grow up to be strong, independent, loved. That someday I might find my way back to this family." Ahmad reached over and squeezed her hand. "She would be so proud of you, Emma, just as I am." Through the boardroom windows, they could see Maria in the garden below, holding Lily up to smell a late blooming rose. The baby's delighted giggle floated up to them on the autumn breeze. "I think," Emma said softly, "she somehow knew that everything would work out this way. That's why she left the journal, the photos. She was leaving us breadcrumbs to find each other." Ahmad nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. Sarah had always believed in signs and destiny. Perhaps she had known that someday their broken family would find its way back together, guided by the love she had left behind. As they watched Lily exploring the garden that Sarah had loved so much, both Ahmad and Emma felt the gentle weight of her presence, not as a shadow of grief, but as a bright thread of love connecting past to present, binding their unexpected family together in ways that transcended time and distance. The future stretched before them, full of possibilities they were only beginning to imagine. And somewhere they both knew, Sarah was smiling. On a crisp Saturday morning, as autumn settled more firmly over Boston, Ahmad stood in his home office, staring at the antique safe hidden behind a painting of the Mediterranean coast. For 21 years, he had avoided opening it, knowing it contained Sarah's final letters and personal effects. But now, with Emma in their lives, it was time. His fingers trembled slightly as he input the combination. Their wedding date. The safe opened with a soft click, revealing a collection of carefully preserved documents and a cream-colored envelope he'd never had the courage to open. On the front, in Sarah's elegant handwriting, were the words, "For the day our daughter comes home." Ahmad sank into his leather chair, the envelope heavy in his hands. Sarah had known. Somehow she had known this day would come. Taking a deep breath, he picked up his phone and called Emma's extension. "Could you come to my office?" he asked softly. "There's something you need to see." Minutes later, Emma appeared in the doorway, Lily balanced on her hip. The baby was wearing a yellow dress that Sarah had bought years ago, preserved by Maria in the hope that someday a child would wear it. "I found something," Ahmad said, holding up the envelope. "From Sarah. For both of us." Emma's eyes widened as she settled into the chair across from his desk, arranging Lily on her lap. "She left a letter. It seems she planned for this possibility more thoroughly than either of us realized." Ahmad carefully opened the envelope, unfolding several pages of Sarah's distinctive handwriting. His voice was thick with emotion as he began to read. "My dearest Ahmad and Emma, if you're reading this together, then my deepest prayer has been answered. My daughter has found her way home, and my beloved husband has opened his heart to understand the choice I made so long ago. Emma, my precious girl, there is so much I want to tell you. When I discovered I was pregnant at 19, I was alone and scared. My own parents had passed away, and I was struggling to make ends meet while attending community college. The decision to give you up was the hardest I've ever made, but I wanted you to have opportunities I couldn't provide. I chose a closed adoption because I knew if I maintained any contact, my resolve would weaken. I would want to reclaim you, even if it wasn't in your best interest. So I forced myself to let you go completely, praying that someday you would understand it was done from love, not abandonment. Ahmad, my love, I know you must have wondered why I never told you about Emma. When we met, I was still raw from giving her up, still trying to build a new life from the ashes of my old one. You were so kind, so generous with your love that I was terrified of losing you if you knew about my past. As the years passed, the right moment never seemed to come. How could I tell you that I had given up our first child? But somewhere out there, we had a daughter growing up without us. The guilt and fear paralyzed me, even as your love gave me strength in every other area of my life. But I never forgot Emma. Every year on her birthday, I would light a candle and say a prayer. Every time we passed a playground or school, I would wonder if she was happy, if she was loved. I kept a secret box of her baby photos and the few items I had from those precious days after her birth, hoping that someday they would help her understand. Now that you've found each other, I can finally share my deepest wish, that you become the family I always dreamed you could be. Emma, you are the daughter of my heart, born of my young dreams and hopes. Ahmad, you are the love of my life, the man who showed me what it means to be truly cherished. Together, you have the chance to heal the wounds of the past and build something beautiful for the future. Let my love be the bridge that connects you, not the secret that divides you. There is more to tell, more that you both should know. In the safe, you'll find documents, photos, and letters I've written over the years. They tell the full story of those early days, of the choices I made and the love that guided them. Emma, my darling girl, know that every day of my life, I carried you in my heart. Ahmad, my beloved husband, know that my love for you was pure and true, even with this unspoken truth between us. Build the family we were always meant to be. Love each other. Forgive me for the silence I maintained, and understand that it came from a place of fear and protection, never from a lack of love. With all my heart, Sarah. The office fell silent as Ahmad finished reading, broken only by Lily's soft coo. Emma wiped tears from her cheeks, holding her daughter closer. She never stopped loving you, Ahmad said softly. Every year on July 15th, she would spend the day in the garden, tending to special roses she had planted. I never understood why that day was so significant. My birthday, Emma whispered. July 15th is my birthday. They looked at each other across the desk, decades of love and loss and hope flowing between them. In Lily's innocent face, they could see Sarah's features echoed, a living bridge between past and present. There's more, Ahmad said, reaching into the safe. Photos, letters, documents, a whole history waiting to be discovered. As they began to explore the contents together, both felt Sarah's presence more strongly than ever, guiding them toward the future she had always hoped they would find. The discovery of Sarah's letter sparked a transformation in the Richardson household. The weight of unspoken truths had lifted, replaced by a shared understanding of the love that had brought them together. As October drew to a close, Emma found herself spending more time in Sarah's garden, particularly among the roses her mother had so carefully tended. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, Maria approached Emma as she sat on a garden bench, watching Lily crawl on a blanket spread over the grass. "Those roses," Maria said, gesturing to the particular blooms Emma had been studying. "Mrs. Richardson planted them the year after you were born. She called them her hope roses, said they would bloom even in the harshest winters, just like love blooms in the hardest times." Emma touched one of the pale pink petals gently. "Did you know? About me, I mean?" Maria shook her head, settling beside Emma on the bench. "Not explicitly, no, but there were signs looking back. The way she would sometimes stop in the middle of a conversation, lost in thought. How she insisted on keeping the nursery ready, even when the housekeeper paused, even when the doctors said she couldn't have children. I wish I had known her, Emma whispered, lifting Lily onto her lap as the baby crawled toward her. Really known her, not just through memories and letters. Oh, but you do know her, Maria said warmly. I see her in you every day, in the way you tend to these roses, in how you light up when Ahmad teaches you about the business, in your love for Lily. You are your mother's daughter in all the ways that matter. From the terrace above, Ahmad watched the scene unfold, his heart full. The past few weeks had been a journey of discovery for all of them. Each document from the safe, each photograph, each letter had revealed new facets of Sarah's life and love. He thought back to the business meeting earlier that day, where Emma had presented her first proposal. A charitable foundation in Sarah's name, dedicated to helping young single mothers complete their education. The board had approved it unanimously, moved by the personal connection and the potential for positive impact. Mr. Richardson. Ahmad turned to find James, his chauffeur, holding a small wooden box. This was in the car's storage compartment. I believe Mrs. Richardson left it there before. The box was familiar. He had seen Sarah carry it occasionally, but had never asked about its contents, respecting her privacy. Inside, he found more letters, each dated and addressed to Emma, documenting Sarah's thoughts and hopes throughout the years. Maria, he called down to the garden, could you bring Emma to the library? There's something else we need to see. Soon they were all gathered in the warm library, the wooden box open between them. Lily played contentedly in her playpen, while Emma began reading the letters aloud, her voice growing stronger with each one. They painted a picture of a mother's unwavering love, Sarah's joy at Ahmad's business successes, imagining how proud Emma would be of her stepfather, her thoughts on holidays and birthdays, wondering how her daughter was celebrating, her dreams of reconciliation and reunion. Look at this one, Emma said softly, holding up a letter dated just weeks before Sarah's passing. She wrote, "My dearest Emma, I feel time growing short, but my heart is at peace knowing the seeds of love I've planted will someday bloom. Trust the roses, my darling. They'll lead you home." Ahmad reached for Emma's hand. "That's why you were drawn to the garden that first day at the cemetery. Sarah knew the roses would connect us." Emma nodded, wiping away tears. She thought of everything, didn't she? The letters, the photos, the foundation. She was building bridges even when she couldn't cross them herself. And now we honor her by crossing those bridges together, Ahmad said firmly, by building the family she always dreamed of. As evening settled over the estate, the library filled with the warm glow of table lamps. Lily had fallen asleep in her playpen, her tiny face peaceful. Emma and Ahmad continued reading Sarah's letters, their voices soft with reverence for the love story unfolding before them. Not just the love between husband and wife, but between mother and daughter, between past and present, between what was lost and what was found. Outside, Sarah's roses swayed gently in the autumn breeze, their blooms a testament to hope that endures, to love that transcends time, and to family bonds that can never truly be broken. November arrived at the Richardson estate with crisp winds and golden light. The transformation of the mansion continued as Emma's touch brought warmth to rooms long left in shadow. One morning, Ahmad found himself pausing outside the library, where Emma sat surrounded by business portfolios and university catalogues. "Harvard Business School," she murmured, not looking up as he entered. "Sarah, Mom, she studied there too, didn't she? Before I came along?" Ahmad settled into his favorite leather chair. "She had just started when she learned she was expecting you. Her acceptance letter is among the documents in the safe." He paused, watching Emma's fingers trace the university's emblem. "You know, it's not too late. The spring semester starts in January." Emma looked up, her expression a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "Do you really think I could? With Lily, and the foundation just getting started?" "Emma," Ahmad leaned forward, his voice gentle but firm. "Your mother sacrificed her dreams to give you a better life. The greatest honor we can pay to her memory is ensuring those sacrifices weren't in vain. Maria and I can help with Lily, and the foundation's board is already in place. This is your time." Their conversation was interrupted by James appearing in the doorway, his usually composed face showing excitement. "Sir, Miss Emma." "You need to see this." They followed him to the garden, where Maria stood among Sarah's roses, her eyes wide with wonder. There, in the midst of November's fading blooms, a single white rosebud had appeared, a variety Sarah had never planted, somehow growing among her beloved pink roses. "It's impossible," Maria whispered. "Roses don't bloom this late, and we never had white ones in this garden." Emma moved closer, touching the delicate bud with trembling fingers. "Mom's letters. She wrote about white roses. She said they represented new beginnings, fresh starts." She turned to Ahmad, her eyes shining. "I think she's telling us something." That evening, over dinner in the formal dining room, now warmed by Lily's high chair and family conversation, Emma made her announcement. "I'm applying to Harvard Business School." Handsome, she took a deep breath. "I'd like to officially change my name to Emma Foster Richardson." Ahmad set down his fork, emotion making it difficult to speak. "Nothing would make me prouder," he finally managed. "You've always been a Richardson in my heart." "There's something else," Emma continued, reaching for a folder she placed beside her chair. "I've been doing some research. Mum's Foundation. I want to expand it. Not just education grants for single mothers, but also a program to help adopted children and birth parents reconnect if they both wish to. With counseling, legal support, everything I wish I'd had during my search." As she spread out her proposal, Ahmad recognized Sarah's determination in every carefully thought-out detail. Like her mother, Emma had transformed personal pain into purpose, loss into legacy. "The white rose," Maria said softly, clearing Lily's dishes. New beginnings indeed. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, and the house had settled into its evening quiet, Ahmad found Emma in Sarah's sitting room. She was adding new photos to the family albums, pictures of Lily's first crawl across the library floor, Emma's first board meeting, quiet family dinners, and bright garden mornings. "I used to wonder," Emma said as Ahmad sat beside her, "why I felt so drawn to Boston, why I had to come here even when the trail of my search had gone cold. Now I know." She was calling me home. Ahmad picked up one of the new photos, Emma and Lily in the garden, surrounded by Sarah's roses. She knew love would find a way. Sarah always said that true love transcends time, space, even... He paused, still careful with the word after all these years. "Even death," Emma finished softly. "That's why she left us so many breadcrumbs to find each other. The letters, the roses, the foundation. She was building bridges even when she couldn't cross them herself." Outside, darkness had settled over the estate, but warm light spilled from many windows that had long been dark. The mansion was no longer a monument to loss, but a testament to love's enduring power to heal, to connect, to transform. As they continued adding photos to the album, both Ahmad and Emma felt Sarah's presence, not as a shadow of grief, but as a gentle light guiding them toward tomorrow. The white rose in the garden was just beginning to bloom, a symbol of the new chapter they were writing together, a family story that transcended time and loss to find its way to love. December arrived with soft snowfall and twinkling lights, transforming the Richardson estate into a winter wonderland. The mansion, once a silent testament to loss, now hummed with preparations for Lily's first Christmas, and a celebration that would mark a new beginning for the entire family. Emma stood in front of the mirror in what had been Sarah's dressing room, now her own, adjusting the elegant cream-colored dress she'd chosen for the evening ceremony. In just a few hours, she would legally become Emma Foster Richardson, officially joining the family that had claimed her heart months ago. "You look just like her," Maria said softly, entering with Lily in her arms. The baby wore a miniature version of Emma's dress, dark curls crowned with a tiny wreath of white roses. Mrs. Richardson wore that same expression on her wedding day, like she couldn't quite believe her happiness was real. Emma touched the delicate locket around her neck, a gift from Ahmad that morning, containing tiny photos of Sarah on one side and Lily on the other. "Sometimes it still feels like a dream. 6 months ago I was alone searching for answers. Now you're home." Ahmad's voice came from the doorway. He entered carrying a small blue velvet box. "Sarah wanted you to have this today." It was in the safe with a note for this specific occasion. With trembling fingers, Emma opened the box to find a diamond bracelet she recognized from Sarah's photos. A small card in her mother's handwriting read, "For my daughter, on the day our family becomes complete." Love bridges all distances, heals all wounds, and brings hearts together across time. Wear this as a reminder that you were always loved, always wanted, always meant to find your way back to us. Tears threatened to spill over as Ahmad fastened the bracelet around her wrist. In the mirror, Emma caught a glimpse of their reflection, father and daughter, the missing piece of their family puzzle finally in place. Lily reached out from Maria's arms, wanting to touch the sparkling diamonds, her innocent laughter filling the room with joy. The ceremony itself was intimate, held in the mansion's conservatory, among Sarah's beloved plants and flowers. The white rose from the garden, now in full bloom, had been carefully preserved and incorporated into the small bouquet Emma carried. Judge Thompson, a longtime family friend, officiated the adoption proceedings with warmth and understanding. Family, he said, looking out at the small gathering, is not merely about blood. It's about love, choice, and the courage to open our hearts to new possibilities. Today we celebrate not just a legal proceeding, but the completion of a circle that began 21 years ago, with a mother's love and sacrifice. As Emma signed the papers that would officially make her a Richardson, Ahmad stood beside her, one hand on her shoulder, the other holding Lily. The baby seemed to sense the importance of the moment, staying unusually quiet as her mother's pen moved across the documents. "By the power vested in me by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts," Judge Thompson announced with a smile, "I hereby declare the adoption complete. Congratulations, Miss Emma Foster Richardson." The conservatory erupted in gentle applause as Ahmad embraced his daughter, careful of the baby between them. Maria wiped tears from her eyes, and even James looked suspiciously emotional as he captured photos of the moment. Later, during the intimate celebration dinner, Ahmad stood to make a toast. The family table, once too large and empty for one person, now felt perfectly sized for their small but complete family unit. "To Sarah," he began, his voice rich with emotion, "whose love and wisdom led us to this moment. To Emma, who had the courage to search for her truth and the grace to open her heart to a new family. To Lily, our miracle who brings joy to every day. And to family, the ones we're born to, the ones we choose, and the ones who find us exactly when we need them most." As crystal glasses clinked together, snow fell softly outside the windows, and candlelight danced across faces filled with joy. Emma looked around the table, taking in every detail. Maria's proud smile, James's dignified nod, Ahmad's twinkling eyes, and Lily's innocent delight at the sparkly decorations. In that moment, she felt Sarah's presence more strongly than ever, not as a distant memory, but as a warm embrace, a mother's blessing on the family she had always dreamed they would become. The circle was complete, the missing pieces found, and love had indeed bridged the distance between past and present. Above them, stretched across the conservatory's glass ceiling, the winter stars twinkled like diamonds, witnesses to a family's healing, a father's joy, a daughter's homecoming, and a love story that transcended time itself. As winter settled fully over Boston, the Richardson mansion buzzed with a new kind of energy. Emma's acceptance letter from Harvard Business School had arrived, wrapped in an envelope that seemed to carry the weight of dreams, both past and present. She sat in Sarah's old study, now a shared space with Ahmad, where they spent evenings discussing business strategies and family stories in equal measure. "I found something else in Mom's old papers," Emma said one evening, as Lily played with educational toys on the antique Persian rug. "It's a business plan she drafted while she was pregnant with me. She wanted to start a company that would help other young mothers continue their education." Ahmad looked up from his laptop, his reading glasses perched on his nose. Sarah never mentioned this. According to her notes, she put it aside when she made the decision to give me up. But look at this. Emma spread out the yellowed papers on the mahogany desk they now shared. Her vision was almost identical to what we're doing with the foundation now. It's like she planted the seed, and we're finally helping it grow. The Sarah Richardson Foundation had already helped 15 young mothers enroll in college programs, providing not just financial support, but also childcare, mentoring, and housing assistance. The Adoption Reunion program was set to launch in the spring, with a team of counselors and legal experts already in place. "Your mother would be proud," Ahmad said softly, watching as Lily successfully stacked 3 blocks. "Not just of the foundation, but of you. Take both business school and this. He gestured to the foundation papers scattered across the desk. Emma smiled, picking up Lily as she toddled over, demanding attention. I had a good example. Two, actually. Mom never gave up on her dreams. She just found new ways to achieve them. And you built an empire while carrying such a heavy heart. I learned persistence from both of you. Their conversation was interrupted by Maria's appearance at the door. Miss Emma, the contractors are here about the new foundation headquarters. The conversion of one of Ahmad's downtown office buildings into the foundation's home base had been Emma's first major project. The plans included classrooms, a daycare center, counseling offices, and a rooftop garden filled with Sarah's favorite roses. We're naming it Sarah's Place, Emma explained as they reviewed the blueprints later. A safe space for new beginnings, just like she would have wanted. Ahmad nodded, emotion making it difficult to speak. The building would stand as a testament to Sarah's legacy. Not just her love for the daughter she had given up, but her dream of helping others facing similar challenges. That evening, as snow fell softly outside, the family gathered in the library. It had become their nightly ritual. Emma studying for her upcoming classes, Ahmad reviewing business documents, and Lily exploring her growing collection of books. Maria would bring hot chocolate and cookies, sometimes sharing stories about Sarah that made them laugh and cry in equal measure. I remember, Maria said, adjusting Lily's blanket as the baby dozed in her playpen, how Mrs. Richardson would sit in this very spot, reading business journals and drafting plans. She always said education was the key to independence. Emma looked up from her Harvard course catalog. Did she ever regret not finishing her degree? No, Maria replied thoughtfully. She said every choice led her exactly where she needed to be, to your father, to building a life that would someday help others. She believed everything had a purpose. Ahmad reached for a leather portfolio on his desk. Speaking of purpose, Emma, there's something we need to discuss. He pulled out a series of documents. I've been reviewing the company structure, and I think it's time for some changes. I want you to take a more active role, even while you're in school. Emma's eyes widened as she scanned the papers. Vice President of Strategic Development? But I haven't even started business school. You've already proven your business instincts with the foundation, Ahmad said firmly. Harvard will give you the formal education, yes, but leadership, true leadership, comes from the heart. You have that just like Sarah did. As they discussed the details, Lily stirred in her playpen, reaching out for the picture book she'd dropped. Emma watched as Ahmad scooped up his granddaughter, settling her on his lap to read the story. The sight brought tears to her eyes. This man who had lost so much had opened his heart so completely to new love. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the garden where Sarah's roses slept beneath winter's white blanket. The white rose, their miracle bloom, had been preserved and framed, hanging now in the library as a reminder that hope could blossom in the most unexpected seasons. Emma touched the diamond bracelet on her wrist, Sarah's last gift, and felt a deep sense of peace. They were building something beautiful from the foundations of loss, a family, a legacy, a future bright with promise. And somewhere, she knew, her mother was smiling. Spring returned to Boston, bringing with it new life and fresh beginnings. The Richardson estate gardens burst into color, Sarah's roses reaching toward the sun, as if celebrating the changes the past year had brought. On a bright April morning, Emma stood at the podium of Sarah's Place, preparing to address the crowd gathered for its grand opening. The building gleamed behind her, its modern design softened by cascading gardens on every terrace. Through the glass walls, observers could see the state-of-the-art classrooms, cheerful daycare spaces, and counseling offices that would soon buzz with activity. The rooftop garden, a crown of roses and hope, caught the morning light like a beacon. Ahmad sat in the front row, Lily perfectly dressed in a pink spring dress on his lap. At 15 months old, she was a bundle of energy and joy, the light of their lives. Next to them sat Maria and James, their presence a testament to the family bonds that transcended traditional boundaries. 1 year ago, Emma began, her voice clear and strong. I was a single mother searching for answers about my past. Today I stand before you as Emma Foster Richardson, daughter of Sarah and Ahmad Richardson, Harvard Business School student, and most importantly, part of a family that proves love knows no boundaries of time or circumstance. She paused, touching the locket that never left her neck. Sarah's place is more than a building. It's a promise to every young mother facing impossible choices, to every child seeking their history, to every family waiting to be made whole. My mother believed that education and support could transform lives. This foundation is her dream made real. The first group of scholarship recipients sat together, their own children in the foundation's daycare center just inside. They represented everything Sarah had envisioned, young women determined to build better lives, supported by a community that believed in their potential. Today, we're not just opening a building, Emma continued. We're opening doors to new possibilities. Every classroom here, every counseling session, every reunion facilitated between adopted children and birth parents will carry forward my mother's legacy of love, hope, and unshakable belief in new beginnings. As she spoke, a gentle breeze carried the scent of roses through the gathering. Ahmad smiled, remembering Sarah's words about love blooming in the hardest times. How right she had been. The ceremony concluded with the unveiling of a memorial garden at the building's entrance. At its center stood a sculpture of intertwined roses, pink and white blooms crafted in eternal metal, representing the unbreakable bonds of family love. A plaque beneath it bore Sarah's words from one of her letters. Love bridges all distances, heals all wounds, and brings hearts together across time. Later that evening, the family gathered in the mansion's garden for a quiet celebration. Lily toddled among the roses, protected by Maria's watchful eye, while Emma and Ahmed sat on Sarah's favorite bench. I received another acceptance letter today, Emma said, pulling an envelope from her bag. The adoption reunion program, our first successful match, a mother and daughter, separated for 30 years, will meet here next month. Ahmad squeezed her hand. Sarah would have loved that. She always believed every story deserved a chance at a happy ending. We got ours, Emma said softly, watching Lily smell a rose with exaggerated delight. And now, we can help others find theirs. The setting sun painted the garden in shades of gold, catching the diamonds on Emma's bracelet and making them dance. In that moment, both father and daughter felt Sarah's presence not as a distant memory, but as a warm reality. In the roses she had planted, in the daughter she had trusted life to return to her, in the granddaughter who carried her smile. Maria approached with a tea tray, setting it on the small garden table. Mrs. Richardson always said evening tea in the garden was the perfect end to any day. To Sarah, Ahmad raised his cup in a quiet toast. Who gave us the greatest gift? Each other. To Mom, Emma echoed, lifting her own cup. Who knew love would find a way? As twilight settled over the estate, the garden filled with the soft sounds of family, Lily's giggles, Maria's gentle humming, the clink of teacups, and quiet conversation. The roses swayed in the evening breeze, pink and white petals catching the last rays of sunlight. The Richardson mansion, once a monument to love lost, had transformed into a testament to love found, nurtured, and passed forward. In its halls and gardens, in the foundation's classrooms and counseling rooms, in the hearts of all who called it home, Sarah's legacy bloomed eternal. A reminder that true love never dies, it simply plants seeds that grow into new gardens of hope and possibility. And so their story continued, not ending but evolving. Like roses blooming season after season, each flower a promise that love, in all its forms, would always find its way home.